Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Jeff with Fluent American checking in. And today we're taking another look at an IELTS essay, this time to discuss both views and give an opinion. Okay, this is an essay I was reviewing with a student a little while ago, but I thought there's some good stuff here that we can review. Some quick reminders for this type of prompt. If it says discuss both views and give your opinion, I strongly suggest making sure that your opinion is clear from the very beginning of the essay. It's not something that you want to hold until the conclusion or to show one side and then show the other side, but not really express what your stance is. Part of your grade is making sure that one, you're answering the question completely, and two, making sure that you have a clear position. I see lots of students that don't give the opinion until the conclusion, or even in the introduction, it's not even clear. And you really want to make sure it's clear, ideally from the first sentence, but at least from your thesis statement, that last sentence of your introduction. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at this essay. Let's take a look at our prompt. So some people think that it's best to encourage children to leave their families home as soon as possible. Others think that they should stay with them as long as they like. Discuss both views, give your opinion. Okay. As we go through this, as always, if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat box and I'll try to explain. You're going to see already there are lots of corrections here. I'm going to be walking through why I made these corrections, whether it's a grammar thing or helping out with the structure. Okay. So we start off with our hook. So deciding whether to send teenagers out or keep them at home is a hotly debated topic. This, for me, is not my favorite type of hook. I think this is a typical hook to use if you're running out of time and you're not sure what to say. In general, though, I would encourage you to use a hook that's a little bit more engaging, that can use a little bit more vocabulary, and is not just rephrasing the prompt. You want to watch out if you're rephrasing the prompt or the question, because if you use too much vocabulary that's taken from the question, it can actually lower your score. So you want to be careful. This is a great opportunity to let the reader know your own voice, your own style of writing, which affects your vocabulary score. Okay. Um, and also to let the reader know that you have some awareness of basically how to start essays. Okay, so I think it's a good opportunity to use a hook that's a little bit more engaging. Regardless, if you're running out of time, then a hook like this can work. Okay, let's take a look at our next sentence. Well, lessons who left their parents at a young age. Notice I added in the possessives. Typically, when you're talking about family members, you'll use a possessive pronoun like their or my or your. Okay. Their parents at a young age may seem more independent and quicker to learn how to make money. Great. So we have 2 points here that we're going to be focusing on for one side. More independent. Let's give that a highlight. More independent. Quicker to learn how to make money. Okay, so I, as a reader, what I expect now because of your thesis statement, I expect your first body paragraph is going to discuss this independence, and it's also going to be discussing about this money. Those who stay with their families benefit the most. This is where we're showing the opinion. We're showing that this is the side that we think is strongest. We think that those who stay with their families benefit the most in this essay. Great. So this is where we're showing the opinion. Notice we do not need to say, I strongly believe, or I think that, or this essay suggests, you don't need to say anything like that. Just right here is enough to show your opinion. As they're able to be more focused on education, okay, so this is what I expect the second body paragraph to be focusing on, education, okay, and a better job. Great. Okay. And honestly, you probably don't even need this part here about the roof and the food. It can be a little bit distracting from your point. So I would consider just stopping with the future. Okay. If you have a question about anything so far, be sure to let me know in the comments. All right, let's take a look at our next one. So young generations who start to live separately from an early age have more responsibility when it comes to earning and spending money. Okay, this again ties into the have more responsibility is tied to that independent factor, and then earning and spending money. Okay, I would maybe even suggest changing your thesis statement a little bit. So maybe instead of make money, maybe it would be more accurate to say like manage money. Regardless, okay, so I know what this paragraph's going to be focusing on: responsibility, earning, and spending money. Good. Indeed, people living independently and who have their own monthly budgets learn how to make ends meet earlier than their peers who live with their parents. Okay, so this is our first main idea. Now we need to explain this with the main idea. With a detail. Okay, so we have our topic sentence. Our next sentence after that is going to be talking about our main idea. So I'm going to give that a separate color. We'll color the main idea blue. And then after that, detail. So the way this paragraph is structured, it has a topic sentence, a single main idea, and then some details. Okay, actually, let me use a slightly brighter color than that. It's a little hard to see. Okay. For example, only when teenagers start to live on their own do they first learn such essential skills as saving money, okay, paying water and electricity bills, and calculating taxes. So notice this is your detail. This is where they start to incorporate a lot more specific vocabulary that I think is helpful. So for instance, water and electricity bills. Electricity, another word you could say for electricity is power. Okay, so water and electricity bills, power bills, calculating taxes. Okay. Since these costs are only theirs, have nothing to do with their parents' expenses. Okay. Then we can cut out this last little part here. So this detail is again describing the reasons why these people, why these teenagers learn about budgeting earlier. Okay. All right. So I think that body paragraph is fine. Again, notice the structure was a topic sentence, main idea, detail. When you're writing your own essays, if you have time, I suggest having two main ideas in each main idea having a detail. I think that gives you a little bit more time to explore, but especially if you're looking at time pressure or you're not fully sure what else to say, then this can work in a body paragraph where you just have one topic sentence, one main idea, and then one extended detail. Okay. Let's move on and take a look at our second body paragraph. On the other hand, young adults living with their families may be able to afford to study at university and get better education. Okay. So we have two things: study education, get better education, university, better education, which I guess is linked together to university and education, and then which will help them get a better paying job. Let's make sure this ties back to our thesis statement, which it does. They're able, if you look at our first paragraph, the thesis statement says, as they're able to be more focused on education and get a much better job in the future. So those are the points that are mentioned in your intro, and they're getting repeated down here. So it looks like our topic sentence is referring back to our thesis statement. That's good. That's certainly something that you want. This will help your task achievement score and your coherence and cohesion score. These are fundamental things if you're trying to get anything about a 6 or higher. Those are things you want. Okay. While you stay at home, okay, they do not have to worry about preparing food and earning money, as their parents usually take care of these responsibilities. So they may fully dedicate themselves to preparing for a profitable profession. Okay. Lots of things are happening here. When you stay at home, don't have to worry about preparing food. Okay. Why is this true? Well, their parents usually take care of these responsibilities. Okay. And then we introduce, honestly, another main idea of sorts. So because this was a situation, they can then prepare for a profitable profession. And then we follow that with a detail. Instead of needing to prepare meals or do laundry, let alone work a shift, spend the time doing homework, assignments, or getting ready for exams. Okay, so this is more of a detail. So we'll color that blue, describing about they can dedicate themselves. Next, we have another main idea. By having more opportunities for academic achievement, graduates are often able to land better job prospects. Okay, main idea. We follow that with a detail. After all, tend to have a higher salary than those who start to work right after school. And then we give a detail to describe that. Okay. Why do they have better jobs prospects? Well, people who have higher degrees tend to have higher salaries. Okay. And that's the reasoning we're using here. Okay. I do think that you have some opportunities to push the vocab a little bit more. Some places where if we were going to try to improve this essay further, I would say push the vocab a little bit more. There are some things I like. So, for instance, do laundry, fine. Work a shift, fine. Job prospects, okay. The detail, especially though, I think is a place where we could have. That last detail, I think, is an area where we could have pushed the vocab a little bit more. Maybe giving information about the salaries or the types of jobs that you can get with a bachelor's or master's degree versus one where you just have a high school degree. Naming some specific titles or positions could be another place where you can push this to get a slightly higher score. Okay, but I think in general this is working. I think it's expressed. This paragraph gives you a topic sentence that's organized, gives you main ideas that are organized, and each main idea has a detail. In fact, this paragraph has slightly more development than the first paragraph because there's more main ideas and there's more details. To conclude, while individuals who start living independently at an earlier age may seem more successful initially, instead of adherence of education first way, that to me read a little bit awkwardly, didn't sound too natural to me. So I suggested those who stay at home with their parents longer gain much more in the long run. So we get a phrase there, in the long run. A little bit more of a collocation. Okay. And I think that that conclusion works fine. The one thing I would say may seem more successful initially. This may need to be explored a little bit more in the first body paragraph. First body. Okay, we don't really talk about how people who start work sooner seem more successful initially. So this idea does not really get introduced in the body paragraph, and the conclusion is not a place where you want to add new information. Okay, the conclusion is a place just to rephrase things that you have already said. Okay, so I think that's one thing you'll want to watch out for in that conclusion. That part probably needs to be explained more in that first body paragraph. Other things, give me a moment. Are we fully answering the question? Let's make sure the opinion is always clear. Okay. So in the introduction, we said that benefits the most. Okay, so the opinion's clear. Okay. Next paragraph talks about having more responsibility, earning money. Okay, we don't really get much of an opinions though, knowing is this something that the author agrees with or disagrees with. We don't get too much of that just from this sentence. That's kind of something to watch out for. I think that I would make the opinion a little bit stronger, actually, in both of these body paragraphs. One way to do that, instead of just starting with a transition like on the other hand, which doesn't really have much of an opinion by itself, I would suggest adding onto it a little bit more. So for instance, maybe saying something like, However, like those who maybe like those who live on their own maybe like are at a disadvantage to maybe like those, however, those who live on their own at such a young age are at a disadvantage to adults living with their families who are maybe like instead may who are able to afford to study in university and get better education, which eventually may lead to a better job. Okay. So a sentence like that will make the opinion just a little bit stronger. So that way it's being reinforced in the body paragraphs. Um, the opinion that was expressed in the introduction. So I think a quick little transition like that in the second body paragraph can make a lot of difference. Again, the examiner should always know what your opinion is, and it should be clear throughout the whole essay. All right, so those are my biggest suggestions for this essay. If you have questions about this or any other task 1 or task 2 writing, whether for the academic test or the general test, be sure to let us know. Also, be sure to check out our website at fluentamerican.com, where we have opportunities for you to send in your own essays to be reviewed. My name is Jeff. Thank you again for all of your time, and I'll see you guys in a future video. You take care.